Can I get roll call, please?
Chair Kimbrough,
Here?
Vice Chair McQuarrie, Member Burge, Member Mozingo, Member Nori, Member Schaefer,
Here.
Member Wiggins. A quorum is present.
Great, thank you. Next on the order is, on the agenda, not the order, public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Oh, you're coming in at public comment, okay.
For the record, my name is Chelsea Kinchlow, and I am the current sitting president for our lovely muscle-powered organization here in Carson City. And good evening, committee members. I am here to provide support for agenda item 5A on behalf of muscle-powered and trail enthusiasts here in Carson City. Muscle-powered has been working with Carson City Open Space, Nevada State Parks, and the Bureau of Land Management since 2018 to move the Centennial Trails project forward, and we are very excited to begin work on this trail network. So while Ash to Kings and Capital to Tahoe are amazing trail networks and connectors, Centennial is going to be something even bigger. This is the biggest undertaking we've done since starting our trail building efforts back in 2014. And it comprises 26 miles of trails, including 22 miles of newly built single track that will take users from Carson City to Washoe State Park and eventually connect outdoor enthusiasts to Virginia City. So it's not directly to Virginia City, but it's nearby. And this level of trail connectivity continues to attract new residents and tourists while enhancing the quality of life for Carson City residents. And we, of course, remain committed to our ongoing maintenance agreements with Carson City as well. And we deeply appreciate the city's partnership in tackling the first section of this extensive trail network, as Muscle Powered is working on a phased plan to build the remaining 19 miles of trail that falls on Bureau of Management lands. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was for agenda item 5A then, essentially? Yes, okay. No, that's all right. You came up with a general one, but that's okay. You can speak to it anytime. So you're doing fine. Everybody just has to know that was for 5A, which they do now. That explains that to them. Anybody else public comment? Seeing none, we'll move forward then to possible action, approval of the minutes of the Open Space Advisory Committee and the Park and Rec Commission joint meeting of June 16, 2025. Any changes, comments? If not, I'd like a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the Open Space Advisory Committee and Parks and Recreation Commission joint meeting of 06/16/2025.
A motion, do I have a second? Charles seconds. Call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody abstains?
I'll abstain. I was not here. You are correct.
Again, it's okay. I should move you down a seat. It's like you've been left out because Mary's not coming, so you can get closer to the group if you'd like. But if you feel like you're being left out in left field somewhere. Oh. Well, that didn't work out right. All right, so that's passed. So we're at the meeting items in 5A. Discussion and possible action regarding the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to authorize submittal of a grant application to the Rec Trails Program administered through Nevada Department of Conservation, Natural Resources, Division of State Parks, and an estimated amount of approximately $79,000, including $20,000 match in the amount of approximately $19,750 for a total project cost of $98,750 approximately for the Centennial Regional Trail Project, Phase 1, Greg Berggren and Lindsay Boyer. Are we ready? Thank you.
We are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Greg Berggren, Trails Coordinator. So, yeah, as Chelsea mentioned, the Centennial Project is fairly ambitious. If I can get this thing to move. If I can get this thing to move. Okay, what do we?
Technology.
I'll just hit enter. No, that doesn't work. Okay, I need some help.
It's the PowerPoint, right? Not the
Yeah,
PDF?
it's a PowerPoint, yeah.
Oh, I think we have a frozen.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
the mouse got it to move.
do the mouse.
There we go. Okay. All right. Anyway, fairly ambitious project, first proposed by Muscle Powered back in 2015. It includes 22 miles of non-motorized trails linking Centennial Park in Carson City to Washoe Lake State Park and McClellan Peak, with a possible future connection ultimately to Virginia City. The Eagle Valley Trails Committee included the Centennial Trails project in their 2017 report, and then subsequently Carson City, when we updated the Unified Pathways Master Plan in 2018, we included the Centennials plan in that as well. And so a formal proposal was submitted to the BLM by Muscle Powered in 2020, with partners being Carson City, the BLM, Nevada Division of State Parks, and Washoe County. And in fact, the Centennial Trails project was included in the 2025 Truckee Meadows Trails Plan. So BLM has already conducted public scoping. They did that in 2023. And they're currently working on NEPA and Section 106 clearances, and they have confirmed in writing to us that they will be done with all the clearances by the end of this year. So in this map, this kind of shows the entire Centennial Trails project. And the white, or the blue rather, the blue lines show proposed new trail, and this green line in the box is phase one that we're proposing for this project, which would connect our existing trails at Centennial, which are Wild Horse and Pale Rider. It would connect them to Gonai Road, and then from Gonai Road, a rider or a hiker could use existing roads and trails for the interim to make a connection to Washoe Lake State Park. And that's something we've been trying to make that connection for a long time, and Washoe Lake State Park and State Parks is totally on board with that. So this would be the very first portion of what would be ultimately a 22-mile endeavor, but this is just the first 3 miles. And so with that, I will take any questions that the board may have, or the committee.
Start, Keith, on your side? Anything? Charles?
The funding is not connected to the bike park, no, but that is part of a larger project that Carson City will be undertaking with a new master plan for Centennial Park, which will include a trailhead, an improved trailhead.
Yeah.
No questions, it's just more of a clerical comment, but on the actual staff report, it just asks if there's a physical impact, and you guys marked it as no, but then you said if yes, account number / account name / number, and you listed the account number and name, so you just want to make sure that gets changed from no to yes, if that is correct. So,
Okay, yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yep. Good catch.
Jay, anything?
Yeah, what are the funds typically used for a project like this? I know typically it's volunteers out there constructing, but there's probably surveying, there's probably some of those costs, but what are those funds used for?
Oh, so this particular, the surveys have been done as far as layout and design. We've Muscle Powered has worked with Carson City staff to lay out the trail system, and so that's all done. So all we have to do now is build the trail, and so this funding would go for a mechanical build, and that is, especially through this kind of rough terrain, it's so much quicker, so much easier to do mechanical build. Hand build through this terrain would be very, very time consuming. And especially when you're talking about a project this size, we need to kind of take it in little bites. And there will be hand build along the way for sure. And one of the things that Muscle Powered is proposing to do as part of this project is realigning some of the more difficult, challenging sections of some of our existing trails on Wild Horse and Pale Rider to make it a little bit more accessible for more people. So there is some hand build associated with it.
Aaron?
Do you have a approximate schedule?
So we submitted a pre-application for this grant a couple of weeks ago, and that was approved today by the by the Rec Trails folks. And so the full application will be due October 13th. We're going to have to go to the Board of Supervisors to get approval for that ahead of our submittal. And then they typically make the awards like in January, by probably January 26th. And then we would put it out for bid for a professional trail builder.
So this is great that we finally got this one off the ground. And there's also, I would maybe encourage state parks to work with muscle powered. That when you come out of Washoe Lake State Park to get up to Gonai, that's a pretty steep piece of roadway right there. It's a power line. It's like me pushing my bike steep. So you can always go down it, but going up it's fun. So maybe that little piece could get somebody's list at least, since it's maybe it'd be considered maintenance or something. I don't know. But as long as it doesn't drop, and then it's nice because you have connectors to VC now going to Gonai, so people can go up Gonai and go all the way to VC if they want to. So it's really a connector to that. And then those red trails down towards Centennial Park, didn't Muscle Power do some building in there on some of those?
So these two red trails, there's the one to the east is Wild Horse, and the one to the west is Pale Rider, and those were both built entirely by hand by Muscle Powered over a period of time. And yeah, both well-used trails. And then people make a loop out of that by utilizing the existing pole line road. And eventually, we'd like to replace that with a segment of single track that goes up to the north of the pole line road.
Well, there is a trail that was built by volunteers without a permit that starts way up there by the cement plant on that road. I can't remember the name of it.
Linehan?
Huh?
Linehan?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So on the eastern right, you could do a loop. You could start at Deer Run, do the railroad tracks, go over, do Centennial, and it come back over the top, and then you drop into the park and go back to your Carbet. So there's been trails in there for years, but I don't even see them on the map now, so they're not considered trails, I guess, for some reason.
So there are many miles of social trails or whatever you want to call them, but they, they're not, I guess, approved or endorsed or whatever by the BLM, so we don't have them on a map. And some of them aren't sustainable. So this proposal is for only sustainable built trails.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else thought of anything? This is an possible action item. So, any more comments or an action, move? Oh, well, yes, thank you for that, Jay. Yeah, I didn't know if this gentleman in the back, because he didn't come up. So, does anybody want to give public comment? You're exactly right, Jay, thank you. No, okay. No, but there's nobody forthcoming. Unless, do you want to come up and say something? You came to the meeting, so but I don't know if you can add or not. Huh? Who were you pointing at? Heat. You already said your stuff there. I'm sorry. My finger isn't pointing right, I guess. That would be wonderful. I mean, this is your moment. This is Muscle Power's support and time, and that's public comments for. And
am I there? Yeah. This whole trail system is about connectivity, and I think it's a dynamite project because it is going to attract local and regional rec tourism and local users to connect all over the place. One of the far ends of this reach toward Washoe Lake is Dead Man's Trail and the gazebo, and some steps involving new trail and roads to get us over to Gonai and connect into what you saw from Greg. There's also an incredible trail about 7 miles long, goes all the way to McClellan's Peak, and then there are roads down to the water system of Virginia City. There's also two more trails, one referred to as the Flume Trail for Virginia City, which follows closely the old wooden box flume that still has relics scattered all over the landscape. Very exciting piece of history there and an educational opportunity like nobody's business. And all those roads and trails converge on the square pond of the water system of Virginia City. From there, you can jump down Ophir Grade, and pop right into the city. So there's some additional trails, but there's just a whole lot of connectivity and incredible views of Carson City looking back, and a lot of volcanic soil and rock, that somebody's going to have to deal with. But I just think it is ambitious, but I think it's one of the most exciting projects that's ever come before the city, and hugely appreciate, support for the thing. I could rattle on for a long time, but it's the last piece of the dream in a lot of ways for the city. And it will reach into other counties, and we've got the cooperation of those people to make it happen, so.
Thank you.
Is that enough? Yeah, this was Pete Donchees with Muscle Powered, crew lead and prior trails coordinator.
You had another comment that came.
For the record, Chelsea Kinchlow, I just wanted to follow up about the social trails comment. So in the MOU that we have established with the BLM, the social trails were eliminated from that, and we are only on for maintenance for the new proposed non-motorized trail. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the big assets of that system is its south-facing slopes. So in the winter months, you probably ride that a good part of the winter where you can't up on the west side. That's a pretty big deal to ride that time of year. Huh? You might not want to build in the summer. Yeah, well, if it's mechanized, I hope he has a big fan in the tractor that blows on those. So, no more comments? Nothing from that. So I'm looking for a motion. Go ahead.
My comment is, I am a board member of Muscle Power. And we just had one of our bi-monthly meetings. And this is the issue that we were dealing with most, is the Centennial Trail. And of course, the bike park, which I hope that we can tie together with all of, ditto to everything everyone has said here, but I hope that we can appreciate that would be a perfect stepping off point for this project.
Okay.
And I approve wholeheartedly. I've used muscle-powered trails a lot longer than I paid for them, and I would be happy to donate all my effort.
Oh, I thought you were talking about money, or we're going to catch up with
Oh,
what you
no,
haven't paid
not
them
money,
there.
effort.
Oh.
Muscle-powered.
Well, at least membership, I would hope. So you're okay with that. Yeah, we all should be members on this board here, actually.
Rub it in. Go ahead.
Now, I'm still looking for a motion so we can
I
move this
move
forward.
to recommend to the Board of Supervisors submittal of the grant application as presented.
So moved. Do I have a second? Jay has a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none. Call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimous, and away it goes. Muscle powered, but we'll need to go out and recruit some more volunteers for this baby. Yeah, I'm administrative now. Thank you. Muscle Power does a nice job for this community and bringing one more big project. Thank you. We're at 5B now. Discussion of possible action regarding a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to authorize the submittal of a grant application to the Rec Trails Program administered through the Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Division of State Parks, an estimated amount of $99,928, including a 20% local match and the estimated amount of $24,982, for a total estimated project cost of $124,911 for the Ambrose Carson River Outdoor Classroom and Trailhead Project. Greg and Lindsay again.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, Greg Bergeron, Trails Coordinator. So the concept of an outdoor classroom for Ambrose was first proposed in 2012, and it's an ideal location because it offers sweeping views of the Carson River and the floodplains, great for teaching about floodplains. There's an oxbow adjacent to the in the river right there to help support discussions about fluvial actions and how rivers meander and move and change over time. There's easy access to the Carson River for water sampling, And the site is separated from busy roads, and the entrance was originally constructed to accommodate school buses. So there is a lot of crumbling or kind of older infrastructure in place right now. And in 2012, I mentioned that, that it was first envisioned. And so there was a high school teacher that developed the Carson High Biology Trail, which unfortunately was wiped out by flooding. And so what we're proposing now is new amenities, new facilities, and everything would be well above the floodplain. And our proposal includes a vault toilet, ADA accessible, shade structure, 18 by 18 to help accommodate students, 2 ADA parking spaces, an ADA foundation that would connect the amenities, 150 feet of accessible pathway, and 3 interpretive panels on the pathway, and a kiosk for changeable content. So this is kind of what, this is what we have out there right now. Those upper photos show the portable toilet and kind of an empty parking area. Down below, it shows kind of more like what we would like to put in there, a nice vault toilet, with the ADA parking spaces, and then the shade structure you see in this photo, the one that we propose would be larger than that to accommodate students. And so this is the second time that we've brought this proposal around. We applied last year and unfortunately didn't receive funding, but the support last year was huge. And all these different agencies and organizations provided support for the project, letters of support. And it was also supported in our Carson River Master Plan survey that was conducted last year, had 290 respondents, and the Ambrose Carson River natural area was most preferred for improvements. And this project proposal addresses most of the top desired improvements that were requested in the survey, including facilities and amenities, trails and trailhead, educational interpretive signage, and safety. So with that, I will take any questions that you may have.
Start down on Jay this time.
Same question. Do you have an approximate timeline?
Again, that depends upon if we did receive funding, we would probably find that out in January of '26, and we would immediately start putting part of this out for bids. So yeah, we'll start on it as soon as we possibly could.
Thank you.
This is a competitive grant, I guess, that we're recommending the board to apply for. Is that?
Yeah, so the recreational trails program in the state of Nevada, well, the funding comes from the federal fuel tax. So it's actually a federal funding, but it's administered by the Nevada Division of State Parks in the state of Nevada. And they have about $1.3 million annually in funding. Last year, unfortunately, there were about $3.5 million worth of requests for funding. So, it's it's up to their committee and their board, and we'll see what happens.
So is there anything we can do to help lobby that forward with Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, or is this just how is that decision made for those grant?
There's a lot of things that go into those decisions, and I think that in recent years they're looking for regional, projects that can be looked at on a regional basis, and so Centennial supports that. I think this does to some degree as well, because it's a project that would be, we have support, for example, from River Wranglers, which operates up and down the river. We have support from the Nature Conservancy, from the River Fork Ranch. So it provides opportunities regionally for education. So anyway, getting back to your original question, I think the best way to support it is to provide us with letters of support, and I'd be happy to request one from you.
Okay. The cost estimates for these, updated from last year's dollar amount, or do we just rinse and repeat that application?
So for our pre-app, we just used we just recycled the numbers from last year. For our full application, we may have to take a look at that and up the game a little bit.
Charles? Sam? Because I wrote that note down when you were talking, because I don't think we've ever been approached as a body to do a letter of support. I would assume we could if we had a motion and was moved to help on this process, which is too late now, but something in the future maybe?
Well, I think that, having a motion to support it and move it on to the board is something that we can include in the grant application. So it does show that it was approved by
Which
our.
would be a letter of
Yeah.
support? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, that was a smart thing to do. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Just some education, I guess, from my perspective. So when the application gets rejected, is there ever a reason for rejection, or is it just you've been rejected, try again next year?
Yeah, no, the committee, they're very committed people that work very hard to try to distribute the funds as equitably and as well as they can. And they, and in a given year, we're never exactly sure what kinds of things they're looking for. But yeah, no, there's not a reason. It's just, either you get it or you don't, but.
They usually have a matrix that they come up with way ahead of time, like almost even before the applications are received. And sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with the application itself, but who you're competing against. Like they're weighing, apples to apples and oranges to oranges for different types of projects. And not necessarily that they're missing anything, that just they decided that another project was needed the money more or deserved the money more or something like that, in their opinion.
You get sympathy points, though. Bring little sympathy buttons and wear them when you're in there for your score us some extra points. That site, it actually, like you said, the road was it was enhanced for buses because it was like a four-wheel drive road before with water problems and stuff. So I've been taking teachers there for workshops to teach kids about the river for years too. And we've taken high school students down there, and we have taken a bunch of the local school kids down there. So it's been used. And Julie Coop was just the main person for getting more stuff done there. And then this idiot helped them design a trail that the flood took out. I didn't plan on that year of a flood to take the trail out of that one area. But it was temporary understanding anyway, being in a river in the class you taught. So I'm so excited you guys brought this back again. So this is great. And I'll buy you the sympathy pins to put on your clothes when you show up. Because it's important, I think, very important to have a place on the river to take people to learn about the river, touch, feel, and smell it. And that affords all of that there. And the restroom's a big deal. When you have a busload of 30 kids show up and there's no bathroom, it's like, it's not very good. So thank you. Is there any other comments before I call for a question?
Mark, I just want to follow up. If we're not successful in getting a grant this year or next year, is there any other method in our budgeting or our funding scenarios or collaboration with school district and capital projects that we would look at, or are we just going to wait for a grant to come along?
Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager, for the record. That is a good question. I have thought about that too, because this project is definitely near and dear to my heart as well, and I'd love to see it come to fruition. Given that our biggest priority right now is water rights acquisition, we would definitely be focusing on that. So kind of trying to go the grant route just to offset those costs, or perhaps we would revisit it in future years after we've recouped some of those water right acquisition costs.
Going to say, Greg, that list of things that, on the agenda there, these things don't happen, just come out of a vacuum. There's a need that needs to be filled. And otherwise, this wouldn't, we wouldn't even be considering these things unless there was a need. So again, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, and everything I see here is advantageous to our mission to make our open spaces, with proper facilities.
Any other comment? Seeing none, can I get a motion? Go ahead, Joe.
Motion to approve that.
I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors
Second.
submittal.
Aaron, he gave it too.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You did read that on, do you have your agenda with you?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
It's okay. It's on your report, the
Yep.
proposed motion, yeah. Just read that.
This is for the, oh. I can't, I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors submittal of grant application as presented.
There you go. Do I have a second? I'll second. Sam seconds. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Two great projects that we know we're gonna bring back with pictures next year. 5B then, we just passed. 5C, discussion only, no action item this time. Okay. I just remembered that too. I thought, Jay, you're supposed to remind me again. Hopefully he didn't leave without, huh? Yeah, I didn't do it because I didn't think he was an active participant, but he left after that. Hopefully I don't get a letter on that later, but they'll see that happen. So discussion only, back again. And the discussion of presentation and discussion regarding review of the Prison Hill Off-Highway OHV area monitoring report and updates on the Prison Hill OHV area. Marina, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist for the record. I am here today to bring the Prison Hill Annual Monitoring Report for you all. As a little bit of a refresher, the BLM was transferred to Carson City, or the Prison Hill was transferred to Carson City from the BLM in 2015, and we began annual monitoring out there around 2020 or so. There's a couple of things that I wanted to say on the record and point out that Greg and I observed when we were out there this year, back in July. A few signs were added to the crawler routes showing, the exact route for folks. A much-needed vault toilet was installed at the staging area, improving the facilities out there, much needed and I think much appreciated. Also, of course, you're all aware that the Prison Hill West Trail was built this last year, and there's a connection at the entrance of the OHV area. And I wanted to point out that there's another phenomenal recreation opportunity right there at the Prison Hill, staging area. Folks can go off and ride their OHVs if they wish. Folks can go down and hike on that wonderful trail. We had 2 volunteer cleanup events out there this year that Aaron Larson, our volunteer coordinator, organized. One was with Battleborn Off-Roaders, and another was with Friends of Prison Hill. Greg and I saw something kind of unfortunate when we were out monitoring. We were up on top, and we noticed 2 really large fireworks that were kind of off hidden in the bushes. And we were surveying on the Monday after the 4th of July, and we were just kind of, we were shocked, honestly, to find those up there, and shocked that a fire wasn't started. That's a perfect location to start a fire. So just want to call out that there's a sanctioned fireworks display that's put on each year, and Prison Hill is not that location. And then another thing that I want to point out is, we do these repeat monitoring photos every year to show restoration progress, right? There's been a number of locations that we have closed off to vehicles. And over the years, we are really starting to see those places transition, back to native vegetation. It takes several years, but we are noticing that, there's bitterbrush and sagebrush coming in. And so our don't crush the brush signs and all the fencing that our maintenance team puts up is working. I don't have any other comments to share, but I'd be happy to take any questions that you all have.
This side this time? No?
I really appreciate the comprehensive nature of the report and the pictures in the report. That was great to see. My understanding is that when this was first created as an OHV place, it was like you could go anywhere, but we're starting now to say only on established trails. Is that correct? And
I might have Greg follow up or finish my answer, but that's true with the exception of the open riding areas. And there's 3 or 4 open riding areas, and generally people don't have to stay on the trails there. But outside of the open riding areas, people need to stay on the trails. Yeah.
A little bit of follow-up on that question. So, some background. So, until the, I believe it was the early 1980s, the entirety of Prison Hill was motorized travel was unregulated. The entire hill was open to motorized travel. And then in, I think it was about 84, the BLM designated the south end of Prison Hill for motorized use, and the northern part of Prison Hill was designated for non-motorized use. But the motorized area, again, travel was unregulated. And so when we started working on our project in like 2019, 2020, we took on, we decided that, that unregulated access or motorized travel was not sustainable. And so we tried to designate or create certain routes for travel, and we designated certain open areas, and we worked with certain groups like the Friends of Prison Hill, which is a rock crawler group, to find and designate some of their areas, and we took something from them, but we gave them some. There was some compromise there. So we worked with a lot of groups and organizations to try to come up with a site that is sustainable for the long term. And now we have staff out there once a week doing routine patrols and fixing signs that are down, or intrusions that shouldn't be there, and things like that. So we're trying to keep it a sustainable, family-friendly place.
appreciate that. I took my grandkids out there, and there's some of those trails, if you don't watch the signs where it kind of indicates, hey, this is not for the faint of heart, this you could get yourself going down when we're like, oh, I might not need to have my grandkids on this machine going down that trail. But there were some places there where I found myself where it says you're leaving the open area, and I couldn't really tell. It's just a matter of becoming more familiar with it. But it did look to me like some efforts have been made to limit people getting off the trail up at the top end, where sometimes they kind of get. I've seen some riders. I actually have seen some riders on the Coons, the walking trail, that just kind of get off somewhere and coming down the hill, and they get lost and they can't get out. And so I don't know if there's plans to put more fencing or some of that kind of fencing up there.
Yeah, that's a good question. So our most recent recreational trails program grant that we had for that area, that's what paid for the vault toilet and two new interpretive signs that we have, and the rock crawler signs, and a few other amenities, including a whole bunch of more jack rail fencing, that metal fencing that we use. And so we have that. We've put a lot in. We have some that we keep in stock so that our maintenance folks can put it up as we need it. If where we see intrusions, we can put it up very quickly. So we try to stay on top of that. And then between the fencing and the signage, we try to keep people where they are supposed to be.
Charles?
Good. I want to say, it's much more than they did at the Johnson Lane OHV, which is pretty much it is the Wild West. But thank you for.
Sam? Jay?
The report's really good. I like all the pictures, the befores, the afters, definitely very valuable. I noticed in the litter part, you talked about the cleanup events. Have you seen an increase in littering, or less, or more? Any anecdotal?
Yeah, Marina Lovejoy for the record. We've seen less, honestly, since Greg has done such a fabulous job, being in charge of that area. And we have those two groups that get out there regularly. And I think that people reach out to our volunteer coordinator, Aaron Larson, to say, hey, now's a good time to maybe do an event. But we have rangers out there and our maintenance team out there. So there's not a lot of opportunity for trash to accumulate.
I would like to add to that. It's kind of interesting when we first had groups that wanted to volunteer to pick up trash. They were asking for the delivery of a big trash can. I mean, one of the big giant bins, and we did that for the first couple of years, and then we went down to just using the trailer. And then this year we said, just leave your bags next to our garbage can, and we'll have the rangers pick them up, because that's all there was, is a few bags. So yeah, it's the amount of trash out there has gone down precipitously
Yeah,
over the years.
40-yard dumpsters.
It just doesn't accumulate anymore. Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, there's kind of a leading question, but the nicer you make places, people are going to keep them nice, I guess. So I think it kind of holds true throughout this area that the nicer we can make places and not have like just the, I was looking at the picture you showed at Ambrose of that toilet sitting there. It's like, it's not very nice. And people are going to be more prone to throw their trash on the ground. And it's just, so the more things we can do outside of this area, I think will be great. Thanks.
Well, in the Prison Hill area, people were not only prone to throwing their trash near the toilet, they were prone to dragging the toilet around the parking lot. So kudos to you guys for getting the grant for the vault toilet. And I just want to say several things. One is I really appreciate the pictures, and I totally agree that the re-veg efforts are working and the fence is working. And I am one of the people who rode all over Prison Hill in the 80s. I graduated from Carson High in 87, and at that time you were still able to go anywhere. My parents' house was at the bottom of S Hill on Heidi Circle, and I rode my ATC every day all around those hills. And I thought when I moved back here that I would be upset. I can imagine that some people were upset when you quarantined off a portion of the hill, but I would like to commend the city for doing such an amazing job, because there's still all levels of tracks available for off-road vehicles and the rock climbers, and you added facilities for the kids, which I think is really cool, that there's the young kids track there, and it's very obvious and in a safe area, where the kids can practice, and, grandfathers or fathers or whomever can take their grandchildren out and teach them how to ride safely, and then, work their way up the beginners, intermediate, and advanced trail. So good job.
Praise for the program. So I thought you were going to show the slideshow. So that was an excellent report, and I am willing to bet that it was probably the best report on any OHV in the country area. I'm serious. I mean, you're never going to find a report, usually because it's on federal land, that they have staff to go out and do that kind of stuff. It's a free-for-all usually. So I think you'd be very proud of that report, and it was very well done, and it just shows what a great job you guys do as stewards for the open space in this community. So you need to get accolades for that. So that's why I thought the slideshow would get us all excited. But does that go anywhere besides us? Is that going to go to the Board of Supervisors?
I suppose that's a question for my supervisor sitting behind me. But traditionally, no, we don't bring it to the board.
Yeah, I tried to get that other one sent, and I can't remember what it was, so that the Board of Supervisors see the level of work you guys do.
Lindsay Boyer, for the record. Maureen is correct. In the past, we have not brought that before the board. I think one way that the information does go before the board is through our annual report of just kind of incorporating in all of the improvements and activities that have gone on out there. And so while it's not concentrated on the OHV area, it kind of is highlighted in that report. But certainly if it was something you felt strongly about, then we could bring before them. We're always just trying to be respectful.
The board would have to support me besides Mark wanting it, yeah, kind of deal. But I don't know what other report it was, but you guys ended up sending it to the board. It's this information. It wasn't an action item. Everything was just like, here is some nice reading for you.
Since this is information only, we can't make a motion, can we? Or can we?
Not, oh, mean to whether to, yeah, it's discussion only.
To say whether or not we wanted to move it
No,
to the board of
that's right. That's
supervisors?
why we changed some of these to discussion. Oh, and we changed some of them to discussion and possible action just for that reason, but no, we can on discussion only. Good catch, Aaron. Well,
I agree, and I would support that. I would support our board, offering agenda item to the Board of Supervisors and say, you just ought to be aware of this. Be good for the public.
I don't think we even has to be agenda item. It could be under some, Jen knows better. I'll let her say something.
That you go to the next board meeting at public comment and bring it.
Thank you very much for that.
Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. I think one thing we can do is incorporate it into the annual report that goes to the board, and I think that's a great way. We always get a good chance to brag about other things that our amazing team is doing, and I think this is one thing that's really important of their function, but we can include that in that report and include the photos.
That would be great. And it just shows the community and just supports your program and builds on it. So another thing good about OHV stuff is that OHV money is readily available usually, so you can do this kind of stuff, right or wrong. I thought they had a huge grant program.
Yep, Greg Bergen, Trails Coordinator for the record. So there are two programs in Nevada that typically that we could apply for. One is the from the Nevada OHV Commission, and that funding comes from the registration of OHVs, and there's funding there, and then also the Recreational Trails Program. Some of their funding goes exclusively to motorized projects, and that's how we were able to get. We've utilized both of those grants for several projects in that area over the years.
So that's just to inform the public that there's more opportunity for us to build on your planning with money that's available most of the time. They used to have big people for RTP to do OHV stuff in the old days. That's probably not the same nowadays. So this is a discussion item only, and there's nobody in the audience to ask if they want to make a comment this time. Is there any other comment on this item before I move on?
Want to support your view about, I'm not from New York, but I lived there for a while. And one of the policies was the broken window policy. If you have a lot of broken windows, you're gonna get more broken windows. If you take care of it, I guess the bottom line was the better it was made, the better it was kept. And so, yes, the off-road trails there are miles beyond what they could be in a good way.
Thank you. Are we ready to move on? Okay, we'll move on to 5D, discussion only, presentation and discussion regarding the announcement of the 2025 Open Space Advisory Committee Annual Awards Program. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay Boyer for the record. So I am excited to announce the opening of the 2025 Open Space Advisory Committee Annual Awards Program. This will be the second year that we have gone through this formal process. So the nomination period officially opens as of right now, making this announcement, and folks will have through September 30th to provide nominations. And those nominations are really made to provide recognition and appreciation for 2 individuals and 1 organization that have demonstrated significant, exemplary, and dedicated service towards the mission and goals of the Carson City Open Space Program. Any nominations can be sent to myself via email. And within the packet is just a little bit more information for the committee or for the public about the criteria. And then you can also kind of see the types of awards or the way that the awards might look once we award them. And this would be announced at the October OSAC meeting, and we would be presenting awards at that time. So with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions on this side? Nope. Any questions on this side? Go ahead, Aaron.
I know I was a part of this with you, Mark, but
Oh, I know you
how
helped
do we
pick out the
vote?
type.
So how is the voting done to see who wins these? What's the criteria?
So if I
Is it
recall,
number of nominations?
I believe there's a subcommittee that will convene with members of the committee who are interested, who will review the nominations and ultimately make the selection. And I believe we will meet early October to make that determination.
Okay, Aaron, did you? Yeah.
Can you remind us who the winners were last year?
Oh,
I got 'em.
put me right on the spot.
wrote 'em
Oh,
down.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Please
Juan
review
Guzman,
those.
ex-open
Juan
space
Guzman.
manager. Paul Sennett, who builds wonderful trails on Prison Hill. Chelsea from Muscle Powered, who was here earlier. And then last but not least is Lin Zong from RZI, who's done tons of work dealing with open space in this community. So there were 4 people.
And the group?
Huh?
And there's a group award too?
Chelsea's would have been probably 4 Muscle Powered. I'm guessing, because there was no limit about the 2 or the 1. It was just the 2 per category. So the thing was written. So it could go as 4, which we had last time. Was 4.
Okay.
So, and I would encourage, it's the staff that's working with these volunteers all the time, somebody like Aaron. So really, hopefully Aaron is going to help us, and Greg and Marina, the people that you know and recognize, even the families for the properties we've gathered, would the fact that they gave up the family's land to conservation easements, those types of folks, and Vidler Water. There's a bunch of them out there that's never been recognized. And so hopefully you guys can help get that word out too. Is there any other comments? Nope. Thanks, Lindsay, for that. And away we go. We'll go to the next item on the agenda. We're moving along rapidly here tonight. Director's report, updates regarding the department's projects, programs, facilities, and events, grants, status of recruitment for vacant positions, boards and commissions, attendance policy, and Board of Supervisors action items. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. I'll keep this short and sweet. We only have 1 full-time vacancy right now in our department, which is really amazing. Park maintenance worker, they're doing interviews this week, so hopefully we'll have that wrapped up. As always, we have seasonal opportunities to work year-round, all the time. Sports, youth, recreation, you name it. There's lots of great opportunities, a lot of good fun work. And then I just wanted to circle back with you on the legislative session. The only thing that went through that really impacts this board, and really not significantly, there was an item about conservation easements. That bill did pass, but it's not going to impact our existing conservation easement or the one we have planned for Old Woods Ranch. So it's really some language changes that it helps with Nevada Land Trust and opportunities for acquisition and how they go through all those. So I think we're doing pretty good from that standpoint. And then if there's any questions on the Board of Supervisors action items, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Your silence? Very thorough report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're the lucky one that gets to go to the Board of Supervisors. You always bring the staff along though too. So. All right, let's move on to the next item then. The Trails Coordinator report, activities related to trail projects managed by Carson City Parks, Rec and Open Space Department, including trail-related grants, programs, and events. Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg Bergeron for the record. So on June 14th, we cut the ribbon for the new Coons Lane Trailhead and the 2.5-mile Prison Hill West Trail. And so our mayor cut the ribbon, and we had most of our Board of Supervisors present, and a number of OSAC members were present, as well as Alan Shepard, the Deputy Director for the BLM in Nevada, Josh Bond, who's the Stewart Indian School Museum Director, and Marina led an interpretive hike, and they went by all of our interpretive signs. We've got 4 new interp signs on Prison Hill. One of them was the geology of Prison Hill, which Tom Gray, a local geologist, helped us with that. Desert Blooms, which talks about the wildflowers on Prison Hill, and that was mostly Marina and Lindsay that put that one together. And then we have a sign that talks about, why is there an S on Prison Hill? We get that question frequently. And then another one that talks about the history of the Stewart Indian School, and the Stewart Indian School helped us with both of those signs, provided the content for that. In fact, the one that talks about the S is kind of interesting because it's in their own words. It has comments and quotes from some of the original students at Stewart Indian School who built the S or painted the S in 1934. And then Reno Adaptive came down with their adaptive mountain bikes to really help us demonstrate how this is a trail for everybody. And it was a really, really good Saturday. We had beautiful weather and had a good time. All right, moving on. So the Riverview Park Trailhead project, that's another grant from SNPLMA, $2.3 million. We have just started the design and the design phase for that. And so we will be holding a public meeting, hopefully on site, to especially talk to the neighbors and the residents that live right near the Riverview Park Trailhead, hopefully maybe in October, to get their comments and suggestions for the design of that project. And that will essentially completely redo the trailhead at the east end of Fifth Street, where it's a lot of crumbling infrastructure, but it's one of our most used trailheads. It provides access to like 14 miles of accessible trails all throughout the river. So it's a really important trailhead, easily accessible from a number of schools and number of people in the neighborhood. So we're really looking forward to getting that project moving. And then also, related to the river, we have the Mexican Dam Portage Project. So CWSD was able to obtain funding through the Recreational Trails Program for a portage that will be just upstream of the dam, and it will work in conjunction with a bridge across the intake, the Mexican Dam intake or the Mexican ditch intake that we built a few years ago, and it will provide an opportunity for people to, for people that are floating the river to start their excursion, like maybe at River Fork Ranch in Carson Valley, and give them a safe way to portage around the Mexican Dam. So we will be managing that project because it's on our property, and that's going to be happening hopefully this fall. And then the Carson City to Canada Quest, just an update on that. So our two hikers that departed from the steps of the Capitol and are heading to Canada, Audrey Payne and Julian Mahoney, they're great, and they've been posting a lot on social media. If you're not following them now, you should follow them. Just go to visitcarsoncity.com. You can find out how to follow them. Actually, Julian, she has been cranking out like between 30 and 40 miles a day.
Whoa.
I don't know how she has time to post anything on social media. Well, I couldn't do that, but if I did, I would be way too exhausted to be messing with my phone. And then Audrey Payne, she's taking a much slower pace. She's only doing 20 to 25 miles a day, so she's really enjoying the trip. But Julian should be hitting the Canadian border actually fairly soon.
Hopefully they brought their passports. They might not let them in.
Actually, now that you mentioned that, that is true. It used to be that when people hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, once they got to the Canadian border, they could enter Canada, and then there was an easy way out to get back to a car. They can't do that anymore. They have to go through an official port of entry, and so they have to backtrack quite a ways to get back out from the PCT once they hit the Canadian border.
It's called
unfortunately.
the Friendship Bridge.
Okay. No comment.
So moving on to our last item, the Sea Hill FEMA Trail that was adopted by RMAC Construction recently, and this past winter, they did a rebuild of a very, very badly eroded segment of that trail. You can see the before and after photos here, and then a couple of extra photos of one of our volunteer coordinator who worked with them, Aaron Larson, and one of their staff, and then a very beautiful photo from the FEMA trail in the fall. We can see the Capitol. It's really a great trail. in the fall. It's very, very lovely. So that's all I've got, and I will take any questions that the committee may have.
Which side do I start? Keith's side, I guess, this time?
Don't have any comments?
No
Thank
comment.
you. Thanks.
No comment. Sam? Jay, none. Aaron, none. You know, I'm taking this opportunity, the Kuntz Trail, I call it, just because I don't know what else to call it. When you start hiking from the trailhead, there's two perfect turtles sit there, those two rocks in a row. Have you made special recognition of the item along the trail, or even know what I'm talking about?
Rocks that look like turtles or actual turtles?
No, no turtles. They'd be fried. No, rocks. As soon as you take off. So I thought maybe you'd already made note of those mentally. So next time you take the trail, about right around that first little corner, look at the point that comes down there. There's two in a row. One's following the other one. Just check it out.
I will do that. I will be on the lookout for turtles.
And then somebody
Turtles
was growing
next
a
time I-
sunflower and watering it, but it died. Darn it.
Okay.
Just comments, because you got your report. It's time to talk about it. Good job, Greg. You always do a great job. Very much appreciated. And there are a lot of people.
Have you noticed Stegosaurus Ridge?
Yes, that one I know too.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we're done with that item. We move to the next item on the agenda, the Senior Natural Resource Specialist and Open Space Manager Report. What a title you have there. Activities related to projects managed by the Open Space Division, including updates within the Carson River Corridor Marina. So yours. Oh, it's not all hers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll kick us off and then I will turn it back over to Marina. So yeah, as you noted, this is a joint report. Just some history of how we ended up with a report with such a long name. We used to have two reports, one for the Carson River and one for everything else. And we ended up combining those, which kind of naturally end up being projects that Marina and I both work on. And we usually have a Carson River section so that we don't lose sight of activities happening on the river. So just a little food for thought there. As far as my updates are concerned related to the river and the Carson River Master Plan, I gave a presentation to both the committee and Parks and Rec Commission back in June, just kind of updating everyone on where we're at in that project. We have essentially completed the public and stakeholder outreach component of the project, and we are now switching gears into drafting the updated report. So the project team is working on compiling that. If all goes to plan, we will be bringing a draft forward to the December joint meeting is our goal, but certainly things might arise that change that timeline, but that's our goal right now. And we plan to kind of circle back with the stakeholders once we have a draft available so that they have an opportunity to see all of their input and how it was ultimately put together into the plan. And then the public will have an opportunity through the joint meeting to provide comment as well. So that's kind of where we're at as far as the Carson River Master Plan is concerned. Marina will share some other updates related to the river. Related to the Buzzy's Ranch Water Rights Acquisition Project, work is ongoing. These acquisitions always take longer than we might expect, but we are clipping along. So we are still in discussions with Vidler Water Company about purchasing a portion of the water rights needed for the ranch. The SNPLMA grant is ongoing as well. We're currently working through some of the due diligence that's required for the grant before we can initiate an appraisal and kind of move forward with the next steps under the grant. So, for example, we worked to produce a water report, which was kind of a big, giant, comprehensive document that looked at the title evidence and kind of all the paper administrative side of the water rights, making sure that they were cleared for potential purchase. And then right now we have a consultant working on a water study, which is really looking at the botanical and hydrological elements of Buzzy's Ranch, kind of proving up how much water we can put to beneficial use out there. So those reports are both kind of in review right now. We're hoping to complete the full review of both of those reports by the end of this year, so we can hit the ground running with an appraisal next year. And then we're also looking at an acquisition with a private party too, to get the remaining amount of water rights we need. So the pieces are coming together slowly. Once we have something a little bit more concrete, I'll be bringing it before the committee for formal action. Let's see. Just wanted to shout out a presentation that Greg and I gave to the Rotary Club just this past July. So at the request of Member Burge, after Greg gave the presentation to the joint committee in June regarding trails in Carson City, she was super jazzed by that and made mention to her father, who's on the Rotary Club, that it was a great presentation. So we went before them and we talked about both trails and open space in Carson City, and it was really well received. We love bragging about our program. They were excited to hear what we had to say. So just wanted to shout out that, you know, we made that presentation. Something new that has kind of come up is the potential for Nevada Dark Sky certification. So we have been in communication with Chelsea Kinchlow, who one of her many hats that she wears is with the Department of Outdoor Rec. She oversees the Dark Sky program over there, among other things. And so looking at the potential to submit a grant, or not a grant, but a nomination to their program for Silver Saddle Ranch and for the Prison Hill Recreation Area to recognize those as Nevada Dark Sky certified, which would be really neat. There's not really a financial component that goes along with that. It's just about making sure that any lighting you do have at those locations is dark sky compliant. We've already done an initial review of Silver Saddle and figured out the few lights that we do have out there, just some minor retrofitting that would be needed to make that happen. But it would just be really neat to say that, you know, we have Nevada Dark Sky certified open spaces, and there is a line within the Carson City master plan that speaks to dark sky preservation as well. So there may be a formal action item forthcoming this October, if we can get all of our ducks in a row. The application is due in October. Wanted to shout out the Pollinator Palooza. At the joint meeting, I talked about our Bee City program and all of the wonderful things that we do there. This year on June 21st was our first ever Pollinator Palooza. So most of the time we just do a pollinator parade, but we tried to really step it up a notch this year. We partnered with the Nevada State Museum and put together this really great Pollinator Palooza. So it was extremely well received. There were literal hundreds of people there. I think partnering with the museum was really effective. We had booths selling native plants, honey, cool kind of bee and flower themed jewelry. There was activities for the kids, crafts. There was an education corner. We did an elaborate raffle where folks were invited to visit local businesses, and the more businesses they visited, the more tickets that they got put into the raffle, and people were really jazzed about that. So it was just a really good example of how you can partner with someone and make an event really spectacular. Our parades that we had in the past had maybe 20 people maximum. This had at least 100. And everyone was wearing their complimentary bee antenna. Yes, they all got complimentary bee antenna that the State Museum provided. So it was just really neat. It coincided with Taste of Downtown, so Carson Street was closed, and it was just a really perfect event. So we're hopeful to partner with the museum for paloozas in the future years as well. Let's see, and I believe the only other update that I have, and then I will pass it back to Marina, I just wanted to note kind of a funny open space work day that we had back in May. We were doing some trail maintenance on the Eagle View Trail. After the sheep had come through there was just some damage related to the sheep traveling on that trail, so we wanted to pitch in and try to put that back so Muscle Powered wasn't totally responsible for that. We did have Muscle Powered come out and help us as well. So it was a great day. We all went up to Ash Canyon. We're very excited to do a bunch of work, and then we're hit with a blizzard in May. And you can see this photo. I don't even think it does justice. It was pretty much a total whiteout, and we had to get off the trail because it was so snowy. So it just kind of shows that one, open space and muscle powered are very tough, hard workers, and two, Nevada has crazy weather. So
And you don't listen to weather reports.
I don't think that was contemplated in the weather report, but I'm not sure. And lastly, just there's a large list of all the events. I try to keep you guys apprised of all the things that we, as well as the whole department, are working on. So just always want to highlight that there's lots of fabulous things. And I try to project forward for a few months so you all are aware of different things you can participate in. So with that, I will turn it over to Marina.
Thank you, Lindsay. Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist for the record. I will share with you an update on the bird surveys that we do each year along the Buzzies Ranch Trail and then also at Riverview Park. We started doing these surveys in 2019. That was before the Buzzies Ranch Trail was built. And these surveys, we started doing them in response to public concerns that this trail might impact migratory birds and bird habitat. So from our surveys, we've not noticed that. We've not observed anything that's concerning. We do bring out a couple of volunteer birder enthusiasts who've been doing this for probably decades. They have much more experience than Lindsay and myself do. And we rely very heavily on their expertise to do these surveys. You can see in those two graphs showing total birds counted. That's every single bird that we see and that we hear on the trail that we're able to record, and then total unique bird species. And then you can see I have how that compares year to year with the average. So I'm not seeing anything concerning, which is great. Moving on to the Empire Ranch Trail Restoration Project. We were awarded $15,000 from Carson Water Subconservancy District to do some restoration work along the Empire Ranch Trail. That trail is adjacent to Eagle Creek and the Carson River. And with that money, I'm going to purchase about 1,000 plants, and we're going to have an all-staff work day and then as many volunteer events as we need to get 1,000 plants in the ground in various sections along that trail. And it's going to kind of take the form of a pilot study. So what plants do well in certain soil types out there? How are they faring against the perennial pepperweed and the hoary cress out there? So little pockets of restoration that I'm going to monitor over the next several years to see, A, is this working at all? And then B, if it is working, can we implement this in other sections near the river? With that funding, we're also going to design and purchase a couple interpretive signs that speak to restoration specifically and install those along the trail. I want to mention the Sea Hill Fire, which started on July 4th. It burned about 77 acres of Sea Hill. Only about 4 acres of that fire were on Carson City property. The rest of the fire was on U.S. Forest Service and private land. I want to point out that picture in the report because it's a fabulous example of trails as resilient infrastructure. You can see in the center of that hill, we have a little narrow single track where the fire stopped burning. So yeah, exact fire break. Yeah, exactly. So we're in discussions about potential reseeding out there. So we'll keep you all apprised of what happens. Let's see. As always, we're doing a number of education and outreach activities. I want to shout out Erin Larson. You can see on page 3 at the top there's a series of little cards that she made for a game that she designed completely herself to demonstrate invasive species, how they outcompete native species. And it was like it was just a fun game that the kids played, and I think that they had a good time. So that's to highlight how creative and innovative Erin is. She's a huge asset to the team in more ways than just serving as our volunteer coordinator. Let's see, a sheep update for you all. The sheep, the 19th year of sheep grazing, if you can believe it, wrapped up at the end of May. Just under 2,500 sheep were out there for about 7 weeks on the west side of town. And from my calculations, I estimate that the sheep ate about 126 tons of forage. So that's fuel, right? That's biomass that's no longer on the landscape. We relied heavily on the Carson City Fire Department to bring water out to the sheep daily. That takes several hours. They hire a person dedicated to do that every single day for that span of time. So super appreciative of them. We're in discussion with our project partners about potentially bringing the sheep out for another month this fall, maybe in October. I'll keep you all updated there. I want to recognize and sincerely thank a superstar volunteer in our community who helped me tremendously with monitoring of the sheep program this year. Johanna Foster, she's a retired professor of ecology. She's phenomenal. She helps us on a number of different projects in town. I reached out to see if she'd be willing to help me with my monitoring, and she jumped at the opportunity. Thank you, Johanna, if you're listening, and I hope that you'll help me again this fall or next spring. Let's see, one last sheep update. We applied for funding from the Nevada Division of Forestry, and we were awarded about $88,000 over the next 5 years to pay for the fire department to bring out water, to pay for permanent fencing, and then some other supplies as well. So that's a tremendous improvement for this program, and it's going to be a great 20th year of the sheep next year. Let's see, in other fire monitoring news, we completed another year of annual monitoring of the Prison Hill burn scar. We have about 15 or so monitoring points that we go to each year and take repeat photography and look at the plant composition out there. And you can see on the photos on page 5 how things are looking several years after the fire. Unsurprisingly, north-facing slopes, which are wetter and cooler, are seeing much better revegetation than south-facing slopes, which look nearly the same as they did a year after the fire. That's very common and typical of the Great Basin ecosystem out here. So we're thinking and planning about how can we enhance our restoration efforts, potentially an herbicide specific to cheatgrass and annual invasives. So stay tuned on that, and we're also considering more seeding, of course. One last thing on the list of activities that Lindsay mentioned on page 7. I have a flyer on the back table for the Move with the Mayor annual cleanup of Lone Mountain Cemetery. That's going to be on Saturday, September 13th. And then our volunteer appreciation event, the second one, is going to be on Saturday, October 25th. So with that, we'll take any questions.
Great report. We'll start on this side, Jay. Got about 15 subject areas there. Okay.
Great catch. We'll take
Yeah.
a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
I have an old Bronco.
I wanted to say thank you for the update and the photos on the Prison Hill revegetation. It's very encouraging on the north-facing slope, and I'm curious to find out what you decide about reseeding. And I had a question. I actually wanted to bring this up when we were talking about Prison Hill. But I know that we post when we have red flag days on the city website, but what else do we do? Are there opportunities for us to have any more communication for red flag days to the community, not only on Prison Hill, but other places? And obviously, it sounds like we need to do more around the 4th of July.
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. That's a good question. So we spent a lot of time talking about red flag warning days over the last few years as it relates to concerns of potential fires from operating OHV, especially off trail. So starting out with the program, when we kind of first started looking at things, we did a lot. We would post on social media every single time there was an event, which could be every single day for months, or it could be sparingly. It could be in November. So we're seeing red flag warning days kind of happen all year round now, which is a bit of a change. We also used to go out and place signage at the entrance at every single event. As you can imagine, that requires an incredible amount of staff time. It requires basically 24/7 monitoring, even on the weekends, which can be quite challenging for staff. So after a lot of discussion and coordination, we work closely with the fire department, with emergency management, city manager's office, others. We've talked about, what is a sustainable strategy for us to be able to get the word out, make sure people are informed, but also not require, 24/7 monitoring. So what we've done this past year, we did an initial kind of when we started to see those red flag warning days, we put something out on social media educating about red flag warnings. It was included in our newsletter as well. There is a banner on the Carson City website that I believe is up year round that talks about red flag warning days and closures of the OHV area. We also have signage on site, and we used to take the signs up and down. And then when we started seeing red flag warning days in the fall season or even in the winter, we decided that we'll just keep it up year round because we never know when those conditions might be present. So that's kind of the level of education that we have done this year and what has been sustainable for staff. Certainly we want to make sure that people are educated, knowing that there is a potential for fire danger when they go out and recreate, and, trying to put the onus on them to look up the conditions and be aware and be informed before they go out and recreate. So that's kind of our program currently.
Okay, thank you.
That's a very comprehensive report. Thanks for that. You guys are doing a lot of work. It does, I think it kind of shows all of the different things that you're working on, I think, to the benefit of the city. It keeps you busy, and we appreciate that. A lot of things to keep tabs on. Dark Skies Now, Pollinator Palooza. Are there other, what other things are we going to be in the business of in open space as we move forward? Are there other things that we're going to be thinking about, or?
Tree City?
Well, Tree City, yeah.
Yeah, Carson City is a tree city, and open space does support a lot of our tree efforts throughout the city and the department as well. I hope that maybe we've reached our max for now, just as far as different projects we've taken on. I recognize that we all work really hard. We're all very passionate, so I don't want to overload us. Hopefully I haven't already, but I think these are all examples of different passion projects that we like to pursue, in addition to kind of the usual activities that we get up to.
The sheep project, the dogs and their handlers, are they like private contractors that we hire?
Marina Lovejoy for the record. Those shepherds who are on site with the sheep 24/7
And the dogs?
and the dogs, yeah, they're employed by Borda Land and Sheep Company,
Oh.
who brings the sheep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
And the Borda family goes way back.
Right. Yeah.
So we pay them like an independent contractor?
We do not pay for use of the sheep.
That's insane, illegally good. right.
Yeah, it's quite unheard of. Using livestock to graze for fuel reduction is incredibly expensive.
But I guess he is feeding the sheep.
Right. Yeah. It's a partnership for sure. Yeah.
What free grazing.
Sam?
So just general assessment for fireworks when you guys are out working on the trails or doing your monitoring. What we saw this year with 4th of July on Sea Hill, and then what you found on Prison Hill, is that par for the course? What you see year over year, is that higher? Is that lower? What kind of trends are you seeing out there related to that?
I just wanted to say, Marina Lovejoy for the record, at the time of writing this report, the cause of the Sea Hill fire was not determined. So I just want to say that. But I was surprised to see, a fire on the 4th of July. I guess I've only been here for less than
3 years, so perhaps it's par for the course. But I was very surprised to see the 2 large fireworks on top of Prison Hill. That was quite concerning to me.
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. I don't know that I have a whole lot of anecdotal evidence about fireworks, which I think is probably for the best. Finding those on Prison Hill, that was a surprise to us because we hadn't seen them there before. I'm sure over the tenure of Prison Hill, there's been some fireworks released in that area. The Prison Hill fire that happened a few years ago, that was on July 4th, and that was lightning related. So some of it's just the time of year. By the time we get to July, conditions are so dry that no matter what the cause is, you're more likely to have a fire. But I wouldn't say that we're concerned that there's this, great increase happening. It may be kind of just, these are the activities that people do on July 4th, and it's more about education, reminding people that open space is not a suitable location for fireworks, as is most open wildland areas. So, yeah.
Okay, so I think I see this every time. These reports that you guys spend all this time on are very valuable to us, and we read them thoroughly. And I hope I say this every time. It really serves the purpose of educating all of us in the world about all the work you guys do. It's a chance for you to share that story. So I don't want you to short that story when it's stuff that you guys do that needs to be heard by, especially this board at the beginning of it. And it's a public meeting. So I always remind you that that work is highly appreciated. And I know that somehow you guys have a different 40-hour week than most people do. But you're in a profession that we all pick that we love, so it's easier to give a dedication to it than the 9 to 5 that isn't as exciting. You guys have great diversity in what you do, which enhances your job, makes you happier to be there when you can change hats sometimes and get out and do some good stuff. And every once in a while, Lindsay gets in the field. So I was wondering, is Aaron full-time or is she AmeriCorps like they've had him in the past?
Aaron is a full-time employee.
Oh,
Yeah,
sweet.
that position transitioned from being AmeriCorps to full-time staff in 23.
Oh, I probably heard that before, and then I just forgot. So
Mm-hmm.
that's great. From what you just said, you just gave us a nominee for a program, so hopefully about Joanne. So she's volunteered for other things too. So
Yeah, and the Board of Family too, that was a good point.
Yeah,
They
Board of Family,
dedicate
too.
the waterfall land to the city.
yeah, that's a good
Wow.
one. And then I was curious, just curious, what does sheep dip come in play with the amount of food that they eat when you say that they ate so much food, but what did they leave behind? Has that ever been put on a graph?
I wouldn't even know how to begin to quantify that.
It's called Stump the Staff.
I
See,
was
we're gonna-
very impressed with the calculations that I did just to figure out how much they ate. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll start with that.
You're not going to put together a monitoring protocol for that? Come on, you're our
Very
expert
comprehensive
monitor.
for you.
Why don't you see some pictures?
I will say it decomposes quite quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's that was just to pick on you. Add some levity to the meeting here.
I have a question about that because I've never really known. Do they eat the cheat grass and those kinds of grasses, or are they eating those? And then if they do, I mean, do the seeds pass through and are they just fertilized and come back and grow, or is this a really good way of keeping the fuel down?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Marina Lovejoy for the record. So when the project started, 19 years ago, it was in response to the waterfall fire. And following that fire, like every other fire in the Great Basin, cheatgrass is the first thing to come back. So that was what was prevalent. That's what the sheep were eating at the time. And over time, right, over 19 years of ecological succession, there's more than just cheatgrass on the landscape. So of course the sheep are eating more than just the cheatgrass. But it's all fuel, it's all flammable. I think it's all beneficial. Yeah. And as far as are the seeds of any plant viable passing through the sheep system? I don't know the answer to that question. I can look it up.
Any other comments? Seeing none. Thank you. Excellent. Next item is item 7A, update from the Foundation for Carson City Parks Liaison.
I do not have an update beyond what was included in the packet.
Okay. We just put on the agenda in case there is, so we can maintain every meeting, or at least share some time about them. Thank you. Now, number 8, future agenda items, discussion only. That is, oh, it's the same thing in the next page. Okay, yeah, OSAC future agenda items for 2025. Is there any suggested? Go ahead, Charlie.
At our last muscle power meeting, one item did come up about a possible funding disbursement from OSAC towards the bike park.
From
And
OSAC?
I just want to, I guess, just make you aware that that's probably that will be coming down the road. Yeah, and believe me, I was surprised as you are. I was not aware that we might be providing any funding for the bike park, but according to the person spearheading the effort, his name is Dan. There may be an issue coming up where OSAC might be contributing to that project.
OSAC, okay, well, I'll let Jen explain it instead. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. My suggestion would be to let the master plan be completed with Centennial Park. This board will have an opportunity to review and comment on that before it goes to the Board of Supervisors. That would be the next appropriate step. As far as funding for the bike park, I don't see our open space program being able to contribute funds toward that.
I was surprised.
That's an active
it
use
even came
park,
up.
Well,
right?
it would be a special use permit. It would be a lot of different things. But as far as adding to our capital improvement plan for the department, and I'm not sure that that would be appropriate, but we could always revisit that. I don't know that we're ready to have an agenda item at OSAC to discuss that.
You were
though.
asking for possible
No, you're
future
fine. You
items,
did-
and that's one of
That discussion is
that
fine.
that may come
They-
down the road.
Yeah, I appreciate the
Just
enthusiasm
from
and
here, we're
yeah.
not talking about it, the city. Right?
Well, and this is an advisory board. There's no funding. But I appreciate the enthusiasm, but the next important step is to get the master plan through.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think we should focus on that first, and then I'm happy to write letters of support for grants and other fundraising opportunities. But as far as open space funding, I'm not sure that that would
Yeah,
be the best fit for the bike park.
I was surprised that that even came up as an item during our last meeting, but it did. And so I'm just making the board aware that this may be something that might come down the road.
You might have a few of us revisit being on the board if we got to come up with money.
Yeah. I'm happy to meet with them too if they need to discuss that further.
That's good that you brought that up, because it's important that we know what's going on when it comes to some business that be part of what we do for this community. Did you have any other additional items for agenda? Nope. Did you?
I think it would be nice if, it's not an agenda item per se, but all of us putting our support behind those grants that, the open space programs submitting for. I know we talk about it, but if we can all formulate, a letter of support from the committee, I think that would be great. It doesn't have to be an agenda item, but just something that, we can get on the books and start working on. That was something we were all supporting, right?
And Greg was,
Yeah.
when we finished that conversation, Greg felt that our action item to the board substituted for that letter of support, because they can show that this board sent it to the Board of Supervisors with our approval.
Whatever's more impactful.
Yeah. So that, if Greg wants to speak to that again, but.
I just, I appreciate that support, and I think that, Greg Bergen for the record, but I think that, aside from the motion that you guys did, if anybody wants to provide an individual letter of support, I'll,
Oh.
you're more than welcome. Please, I can send out a template, and you're more than welcome to formulate a letter and submit it, and we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, I would say send out the template, and then if we all want to sign on behalf of the board, if that's something we could do, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think it would need to be an individual letter.
Right,
Yeah,
you
'cause
can't
we'll-
sign that you're a
For,
board
for,
member.
well,
yeah.
we can submit your action of approving the grant to move forward. We can submit that with the grant. But I think, that you'll need to, if you want to offer a letter of support, it needs to be individually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's not an action item.
Wait,
for-
when is the
Okay.
deadline for those grants again?
Keith, I'm sorry, what was that?
Sorry, what is the deadline? for
So
those
we have to
grants?
submit by October 13th.
Yeah, and
definitely.
that's prior to our next meeting, so we couldn't agendize it for,
Yeah.
it would be great to be able to do that as a board, probably, some.
Jennifer, can you weigh in on that? Doesn't it have to be as a citizen rather than as a board member when you write a letter?
Thank you, Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. It would have to be as a citizen, and you can speak on behalf of yourself, but not on the board unless you guys voted to do that.
And-
So typically what you would do is we'd have an item and then you would authorize the chair to sign a letter on behalf of the board. But we didn't agendize it that way. So you're welcome to support it as an individual citizen, but I think Greg is right that, you know, you're, as a board, you recommended approval to the Board of Supervisors. And I think that speaks volumes without having to be a letter, but he'll mention that in his
think- I
application.
think Todd can affirm that. To let us understand that our commitment to the public board doesn't allow us to represent the board by ourselves, right, Todd?
Correct.
Correct. That's it for the whole meeting that recorder's gonna get.
You had to have me talk at least once
That's
each
right.
meeting.
That's right. So we can put you at least in the agenda that you appeared at. Thank you. Anything else for agenda items on this side? Go ahead, Jay.
I like where Board Mozinga was going with this. Alternative to that, I think we need to know when we don't get grants. And we see a lot of things, the meetings are every couple months, and there might be some elements out there where, we didn't get a grant again, we didn't get a grant again, but maybe, I know we're focused on water rights and that's the most important thing, but maybe some of these lower dollar items are a priority for the community. So just letting the board know when we don't get grants that maybe we can chip away at some of these smaller projects with funding anyway, that we can decide if it's a valuable project for the community. That wasn't really an agenda item. It was just me on a
I'm just gonna
soapbox.
Put some clarity to that, but it was a chance for you to make a comment that we're okay. Okay. Does Aaron have anything on the agenda? I think you shook your head no. I only have one thing to ask. And I just found it the other day. I was going through my closet and I found this really cool rock that had the state of Nevada painted on it. And we had all that discussion on those poor rocks on the trail that's closed right now. I'll be excited to have that open up again, but they have that piece closed down. Did we ever we were talking about working with the new art person, maybe the policy of how that all works in the city, so the rocks might come back someday, but can that be put on the agenda, or is it all kind of just buried and non-existent? Your boss is.
I
Would
can
you
jump
wanna
in
answer
on that.
I'm
Yeah.
looking at you instead of Lindsay.
I know. It was something that was Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. As far as the painted rocks in the community, I think it's something that was very emotional. It was something great during COVID. Unfortunately, if we had a policy that came forward, it would actually be adverse to the current code. So right now it says in Carson City municipal code that we can't allow things like that. So it's more a case by case basis. If you look at C Hill and the C or the S for Stewart Indian School, those are technically, art that we are allowing. But those are kind of two exceptions. So I think the best way to revisit that is when we update the municipal code for the department for Title 13, and we would have to address it through that.
How often do we do that?
Not often.
Yeah.
We
didn't
would
think
love
so.
to bring it forward, but, the DA's office, I think, is drowning with code updates right now. But that would be the best avenue.
So it's
It's kind of tabled for now.
the DA's fault? that
Yeah.
what we're saying? Long as we're clear.
We don't know what's causing it, we'll just
That's
say
fine. That
it's
was
Todd's
good
problem.
discussion, so it won't be on an agenda item, so that kills it.
Yeah, I know. We did try to pursue that and see if there was a way we could kind of make opportunities for that, but they all essentially violated the code, so we couldn't do that.
Okay,
Oh.
that will be brought up.
Not now, but maybe later. How about that?
Kick the can down the road. It's okay. All right, so where am I at then? We're done with future agenda items, which became none after all that discussion, so that worked out for us. Yeah, that's it. I got it right here. Number 9, public comment. None. Seeing none come forward.
He's not here.
So, if you look at number 10, all I need is somebody to close this meeting out for adjournment. Anybody? Everybody wants to stay?
I move to adjourn.
There you go, Aaron. Thank you. Oh, bang the gavel. Do you have to close the meeting with a bang? We're dismissed.